Muskan Fatima of Institute of Aeronautical Engineering College, and today we are going to discuss about the concept video of Python subject on the topic Python loops. This is Muskan Fatima from CSE section B. Let's get started. Python looping, a journey through the possibilities, a code odyssey. So today we'll be knowing about introduction to loops in Python, types of loops in Python, for loops in Python, while loops in Python, the nested loops in Python, how to use the loops in Python, break-in continuous statements in Python, debugging loops and optimizing loops in Python, and in the end we'll be knowing the conclusion of this concept video. So let's get started with the introduction to loops in Python. Python is a powerful and versatile programming language that allows programmers to write code quickly and efficiently. One of the most useful features of Python is the ability to use loops, which allow code to be repeated multiple times. Loops are an essential part of Python programming and are used to perform repetitive tasks. Loops are used to iterate over a sequence of items such as a list or a string and execute a set of instructions for each item in the sequence. So the loops in Python are very helpful to write a code in a easy manner and understand it without any problems. Like we can, for a repetitive task, we don't have to write the code again and again. We just use a loop and then we can get our code done. So this is about loops in Python. Let's know how many types of loops are present in Python. That is, types of loops in Python. There are two types of loops in Python. One is for loop and the other is while loop. For loops are used to iterate through a sequence of items such as a list or a string. While loops are used to execute a set of instructions until a certain condition is met. Therefore, for loops can iterate the sequence in a list and a string. But while loops need a certain condition to execute the set. For loops and while loops can be used together to create more complex programs. By combining the two types of loops, programmers can create powerful programs with less code and fewer errors. That is, we won't have many errors, like writing the code again and again and having a simple error will increase the number of errors in our code. Whereas when we use for loop and while loop, we don't have to write, like if we are going to find the, if we are adding two numbers, we don't have to add a plus b, then b plus c, then d plus e. We can just keep a for loop and we can add it easily. And even if statements are used in between, then we'll discuss about for loops in Python briefly. As the journey of exploration continues, the for loop reveals itself as a powerful tool for iterating through sequences of data. The for loop enables the traveler to traverse the unknown with ease and to discover the secrets of the code at sea. For loops are used to iterate through a sequence of items that are commonly used when we want to perform a set of instructions on each item in a list or sequence. For loops can also be used to iterate through a range of numbers. For loops are the most commonly used type of loop in Python. They are easy to use and can be used to solve a variety of problems easily. So for loops are very important. Like if there is no for loop, we can make many errors and also the code increases, because when we take a range, we can easily get the execution done. But when we don't have a range, we should show it one by one, one by one, and one by one. That takes a lot of time to be done. Then we'll now know about while loops in Python. Therefore, the while loop in Python is a powerful tool for creating complex programs that can be executed with fewer errors and less code. It is used to iterate over a sequence of items and execute instructions for each item in the sequence. While loops are used to execute a set of instructions until a certain condition is met. They are commonly used when we want to repeat a set of instructions until a certain condition is met. While loops can also be used to iterate through a sequence of items. While loops can be used to solve a variety of problems, but they should be used with caution, as they can cause an infinite loop if the condition is never met. Therefore, we should be cautious while using the while loop and not, and be wary that we don't get an infinite loop, which is like we should kill the code to get through it. So now next we'll be having nested loops in Python. Nested loops are used to execute a set of instructions multiple times. They are commonly used when we want to iterate through a sequence of items multiple times. Nested loops are like for loop in a while loop or a while loop in a for loop. We can use it that way. Like loops can be inserted in the loops. That is called nested. Like nesting for loop in a while loop and nesting while loop in a for loop and XYZ and so on. Nested loops can also be used to iterate to a range of numbers. Nested loops can be used to solve a variety of problems, but they should be used with caution as they can cause performance issues if used incorrectly. Like as we said that while loop will be creating an infinite loop if it never meets the condition. Therefore, nested loops face this problem. This performance issues occurs if we use it incorrectly. And next we'll be learning about how to use a loop, like using loops in Python. Using loops in Python is a simple and effective way to write code quickly and efficiently. Loops can be used to iterate over a sequence of items such as a list or a string and execute a set of instructions for each item in the sequence. Now, what are loops? How to use them? We're learning them. Like we can enter a condition to meet the loop, and or else we can use a range and like so. Loops can also be used to create more complex programs by combining for loops and while loops. By using loops, programmers can create powerful programs with less code and fewer errors. So now we already learned using loops in Python. Now let's know about break and continue statements in Python that are used in loops so as to prevent the infinite loop and to stop the loop and there's no requirement of it. The continue statement in Python is used to skip the current iteration of a loop and move on to the next iteration, that is to the next loop or the statement. Like the break and continue statements are used to control the flow of a loop, therefore to prevent infinite loops and to prevent iteration of it again and again without any stop. The break statement is used to exit a loop, while the continue statement is used to skip the current iteration and continue with the next iteration. So these are the similarities in between the continue and break statements and how they can be differed. And next we'll be learning about the break statement in Python is used to break out of a loop and move on to the next statement. The break and continue statements can be used to optimize the performance of a loop and can help to avoid infinite loops. They should be used with caution as they can have unexpected results if used incorrectly. So now we are even next we'll be learning about debugging loops in Python. Debugging loops in Python can be a challenging task. It is important to check for errors in the code and make sure that the loop is running correctly. It is also important to test the code with different data sets to ensure that the loop is working correctly. Debugging loops can be a time-consuming process, but it is an essential part of programming. By taking the time to debug loops, programmers can create powerful programs with fewer errors and fewer bugs. So to prevent the bugs from destroying our code, we do debugging in loops, that is to remove the bugs from the loops by using the debugging process, and it is necessary because if it is not done we can we'll be having some errors and the bugs can cause the code to kill itself. And next, optimizing loops in Python. Optimizing loops in Python is an important part of programming. Optimizing loops can help make code run faster and more efficiently. By optimizing loops, programmers can create powerful programs that are more efficient and can handle larger tasks. Optimizing loops can be a time-consuming process, but it is an essential part of programming. By taking the time to optimize loops, programmers can create powerful programs with fewer errors and fewer bugs. And next will be the conclusion to the topic Python loops. Let's get conclusion. Again, get the summary of this. Loops are an essential part of Python programming and are used to perform repetitive tasks. Loops can be used to iterate over a sequence of items such as list or a string and execute a set of instructions for each item in the sequence. By using loops, Programmers can create powerful programs with less code and fewer errors. Debugging and optimizing loops is an essential part of programming, and by taking the time to do so, programmers can create powerful programs with fewer errors and fewer bugs. Loops are an essential part of Python programming and are used to perform repetitive tasks. Loops can be used to iterate over a sequence of items such as a list or a string and execute a set of instructions for each item in the sequence. By using loops, programmers can create powerful programs with less code and fewer errors. Debugging and optimizing loops is an essential part of programming, and by taking the time to do so, programmers can create powerful programs with fewer errors and fewer bugs. So let's end this session with this. And the Python loops are essential, very essential, as we know, like to get the execution done with fewer errors and fewer bugs, and also to get it in fewer lines to reduce the code context. We use loops, and hence we're done with our session. Thank you.